Let's face it, positions and hiring are very different than they used to be many years ago. What used to be essential skills may not hold the same weight today as they did back in the day. And now there's more federal rules and regulations to follow than ever before. Today's workforce spans multiple generations, and your applicant pool is more diverse than it ever has been. With all this change, you need to keep up, not just in your job and how you perform your job, but also in the role to help you find, interview, and hire others. The hiring process begins with starting with the right foundation. A strong hire begins with a good, solid job description. It's time to review them and look them over with a human resource professional to make sure that old terminology has been removed and to remove any physical obstacles to the job that may violate anti-discrimination laws under Title VII of the Civil Rights Act. You may also have to include pay ranges to be in compliance with pay transparency laws in your state. This is also a good time to update things about technology that may be required or new knowledge that used to not be there. You need to make sure that it entirely outlines the knowledge, skills, abilities, and other traits, or otherwise your KSAOs, required for success. Your job posting should also reflect what's truly expected on the job. Nothing more, nothing less. Avoid setting unrealistic expectations of grandeur to make sure that your selection process is legally compliant. That means you cannot ask about age, race, religion, ethnicity. You can't ask about pregnancy, marital status, or any of the number of protected characteristics during your interviews. And speaking of interviews, it's time to ditch the tell me about yourself routine. Too often, managers treat interviews like casual conversations. They stick to the same old openers like, tell me about yourself, which lead the applicants to divulge way too much about their personal life. This can lead to unintended bias or discrimination. Instead of the same old relaxed interview, go in prepared. Develop a structured interview with the help of a human resource professional, where you ask each candidate the same job-related questions. This will ensure consistency and fairness. Structured interviews are based on behavioral and technology-based questions. This allows you to determine how they're going to behave or handle things in the past, how they may do them in the future, and if they've made a plan and thought far enough ahead. It's also going to find out how comfortable they are with technology-based programs and platforms, how much they've already learned in this field, and whether they're willing to continue learning to move ahead with your company. These kinds of questions will give you a much clearer picture of the candidate's real-world capabilities and how they might perform in your environment. And let's face it, it's the hardest thing in the world to do, but we must keep bias in check. Bias can creep into your hiring decisions in the most subtle ways. Maybe you're of the school of thought that the firm handshake is what makes a good candidate, but really, is that an essential part of the job or just a personal preference? Especially since COVID, many people have replaced the standard handshake with some other form of greeting. And the same goes with attire, too. Someone's appearance in a job interview may be based on the fact that they came from another job to meet with you, or they're currently on a very tight budget, or they had car trouble, or they just had the kids at soccer practice. Another common trap that we fall into is affinity bias. And that's where we gravitate towards candidates who are similar to ourselves. And they have similar backgrounds. They may come from the same alma mater. But the important question to ask yourself is this factor really a good indication of job performance? So who have you been hiring? Turnover is really costly, and you need to take time to reflect on your hiring track record. Do you have a record of hiring high performers who stay? Or are you hiring people just to fill the gaps? Does your team reflect different backgrounds, ages, and cultures, or do they look and act the same? If any of these questions are, hadn't really thought about that, it's time to be mindful and take a look at it to see if there's ways you can improve in this area. So, reasonable accommodations can begin anytime. It's not just after they've been hired or been with you for many years. It can begin from the beginning, from application process all the way through the interview process. If a candidate asks if there's another way to apply for your position, consider being flexible. They prefer to drop it by. It's not necessarily their preference. There may be a reason. The key is you do not need to know what their medical reason is. You just need to know, how can this help them on the job? And check your application process. If you're using an app for that, or you're using a website, have that tested very often. Frequently, there's glitches that prevent people from moving forward in the application process, and they never get to your table or even in front of you because of a roadblock, a pop-up, or a spam. Double check those to make sure that you've removed the unnecessary roadblocks so they can move forward with the application process. If a candidate's in an interview and mentions a need for frequent breaks, lactation breaks, special equipment, or remote work, don't panic. You don't need a lot of details. Instead, just ask them how the accommodation will help them succeed on the job. And then ask them whether they'll be providing these tools themselves or who your company can contact to get more information. Many software programs can be provided at no or low cost to assist job seekers in being successful on the job. The goal is to engage in that collaborative conversation and determine if the adjustment is reasonable and doesn't create an undue hardship. Document everything, from why someone was not selected in the application process to what was said during a reference check. If a hiring decision is ever questioned, your documentation will be your backup. It can also help protect you from claims of negligent hiring. Negligent hiring occurs if a past employer failed to disclose key essential information about legal activity or illegal activity during their time with them. Once you've made your hire, you may want to find out a little bit more about your team member before you start managing and supervising that person. One of the best ways to do that is a personality assessment. We offer the DISC assessment to understand how new team members communicate and work with others. It can help improve collaboration and team fit right from the start. Hiring today is more than just reviewing resumes and interviewing. It's about hiring and being thoughtful, fair, and strategic. With a little preparation and awareness, you can build a process that works for your team, for you, and for the future hires. Let my HR professionals help you navigate the changes with confidence.